Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2CTV, your global news channel. The debate around the grooming gang scandal in the United Kingdom has now reached Greater London, with members of the London Assembly are now questioning the leadership of Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, in regards to this issue. And in this live stream, we're going to be discussing the overall handling of this situation by the Labour Party on a national level and local level and devolved administrations in general. There's so much to cover here. Of course, if you are watching this live, then we'll get your reaction. We still have our daily schedule. I'm still sticking to it. Monday to Friday, we have a fixed daily live shows at 10 a.m. UK time, 1 p.m. UK time, and a 7 p.m. UK time. Throughout the day, breaking news, everything else will come. But that's just Monday to Friday. Weekends, it's going to be crazy. All right, so let's talk about this issue. First things first. Susan Hall, as on behalf of the Conservatives in City Hall, was actually doing really well overall in this debate, because she was asking very simple questions from Sadiq Khan. The Mayor of London pretended to be an idiot. I'm not joking, I'm not exaggerating. He was just pretending to be an idiot. He said, what do you mean, grooming gangs? Define them. Oh, well, do you mean people like, brown people? Or basically, that's the gist of it. We're going to show you the video first, but there's a poll. If you're watching this live, there's a live poll right now in the live chat. I said, why is Sadiq Khan refusing investigation into grooming gangs? 88% of you have said he has something to hide. 5% have said he simply wants to oppose right-wingers. There's a lot of people on the left who just do things because it's against the other side. 2% of you have said there are no grooming gangs in London. In London, Greater London, with all the segregated areas and ghettos, 2% believe there are no grooming gangs in London. And 6% say he's lost his mind. Well, that kind of implies that he had a mind before, but he didn't. Let's go to Susan Hall asking a very simple question, and Sadiq Khan just not being able to answer.
I asked you this question last week and you found every which way but not to answer it. Just how many grooming gangs have we got in London?
Avoiding a misunderstanding, can she define what she means by that?
Yes, if you look at what's gone on in Rotherham, where there are people taking young girls, grooming them for sex, that is what I'm talking about.
We know in London there are issues about exploitation of young people, but they're not as defined by the member in her definition of what those types of gangs are.
So are you saying we haven't got the same sort of gangs that are in Rotherham, Bradford and lots of other places in the country?
Just for a misunderstanding, what does she mean by that?
You know full well what I mean by that. It's all over the television. You know exactly what I mean by that. These gangs of people that are grooming young girls for sex. Do we actually have those in London?
Today, I'm unclear, Chair, what is meant by the question. If you could spell it out, I can answer.
I've just spelt it out. Are you not listening? It's the sort of gangs that groom young girls at a young age for sex. Exactly how much clearer do you want me to be?
Well done, Susan Hall. As usual, she's always a star in the chamber in London City Hall, and it's fascinating what's going on. I know exactly what he was trying to do. We know what he was trying to do. He was trying to get her to say Pakistani. And then he was going to start crying like a victim, saying, how dare you? Are you claiming people like me are part of these gangs? Shut up and do your job. I don't care about your identity politics. Do your job, otherwise people are going to think you have something to hide. The whole establishment have something to hide. It's absolutely embarrassing. There are people watching this from around the world laughing at us because of our weak and feeble leaders. So all this is going on. He's still refusing to even acknowledge the problem, claiming that we have no issues here. There are some girls, some women just being touched randomly in public, but that's it really. Yeah, I mean, you're telling me in small towns and villages, where population is much smaller than London, where we have problems, you're telling me in Greater London, with all the segregated areas, you're telling me there are no issues. And somehow the London Metropolitan Police is the only police force that's absolutely clean. No scandals around it. maybe we need a deeper investigation into the London Metropolitan Police, considering that local police forces have all been exposed, a number of them. Thinking these are questions that need to be answered. And actually, Sammy Woodhouse, 2CTV's documentary maker, said every single council and police force in the UK should be independently investigated. We need to also know who knew at a national level. Every single child in the UK obviously is owed this. Obviously, they've been targeted by these evil creatures. There is also a point to be made, because obviously Sammy is currently working on a couple of documentaries, but one of the main documentaries is going to be, which she's filming now, is on this issue, and obviously it will be exclusively on 2CTV. She actually did post this a few days ago. Filming starts for my documentary tomorrow. It's going to be a heartbreaking story, but such an important one that's extremely close to my heart. Children were groomed, abused, raped, tortured, trafficked and murdered, and completely failed in the UK. Child victims were also criminalized and became pregnant. The voices of those that have been forgotten must be heard, only on 2CTV. And as I said, yes, the documentary will be exclusively on 2CTV Plus. If you want to join 2CTV Plus, obviously support our work, but also be able to watch this documentary and everything else that we do. Join 2CTV Plus, but use the promo code. This, I think, it's the last day now. Use the promo code WIN50. One word. Go to 2c.tv. You will get 50% off annual subscriptions only, new annual subscriptions. So you can find the link in the description as well. Obviously, you get access to all our uncensored documentaries and everything else that sometimes we might not be able to post on this platform, but obviously we have our independent platform, 2c.tv. All right, so continuing with this, there was also another debate in the House of Commons, right? Rupert Lowe, one of the rising stars of Reform UK, stood up in the chamber, and behind him you had Shakhtar Ahmad and the other independent Islamist MPs who are not too happy about Rupert Lowe raising this issue. But we are going to give a voice to Rupert Lowe because he's absolutely brilliant and he was correct to raise this. Let's go to House of Commons.
Rupert Lowe.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As well as withheld court transcripts, I've been pushing the Ministry of Justice for data on the following. How many Pakistani or other foreign rapists have been deported, are still in prison, did not serve a custodial sentence, are back in the same community as their victims, had previous convictions, have reoffended, full nationality breakdown of those involved in the gangs? The response: the requested information is not centrally identified in the data systems relevant to these questions. Now, if this was a state inquiry into the private sector, they would be accused of negligence. Now, my view on this, Madam Deputy Speaker, is that we firstly need a full national inquiry. This is a rotting stain on our country, and it needs to be exercised in full. It cannot continue to be kicked into the long grass. The British public want transparency, and they want to know the reason why this has taken so long to be dealt with.
Well, I would say to the Honourable Member that we do believe that better data needs to be collected, more comprehensive data. That's why I've said the overall data on child sexual abuse needs to be overhauled, including I'm making immediate changes to the gathering of data on ethnicity on both perpetrators and victims, because the system that we inherited from the previous government simply isn't strong enough, but we will need further changes as well. And on the issue around the foreign national offenders, where people have committed where foreign citizens have committed sexual offences in this country, they have no right to stay in this country, and we have to increase returns. And that is why, rightly, this government has increased returns of foreign national offenders by over 20% since the election.
Yes, from 5 to 6, basically. 20%. You can't just randomly come up with things and say, well, yeah, they don't have a right to stay here. But when other parties, for example, Reform UK, would say that, they're like, wow, that's just racist. What are you talking about? We know how the public are feeling about this. We know the latest data showed that only 18%, which is still concerning, by the way, 18, don't really believe in having a national inquiry because they think it's jumping on a bandwagon of the racists to cause division. 18% of the country, I don't understand this, but fair enough. But the rest of them, obviously, are all concerned about this issue. Now, we have a lot of problems. That 18% also includes the change in demographic and obviously those who just hate Britain and British values from the political left. So it's not really that surprising, but it's on a more human level, it's a little bit weird that there could be human beings living in a country who want their country to be unsafe. That's basically it, right? There was also a reaction from Chris Philp on behalf of the Shadow Cabinet, the Conservative Party. He raised a good point in regards to what we discussed yesterday. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, announced that we are now going to be funding 5 local inquiries, 5, without any power to change anything, by the way. It's just using British taxpayers' money to pay for it. But considering that this problem is across the whole country, 5 isn't enough. And Chris Philp actually pointed out that exact issue.
Surface. Now, the Home Secretary just announced government support for only 5 local inquiries. Let me say this is wholly inadequate when we know up to 50 towns are affected. So I have some serious questions for the Home Secretary. Firstly, how are the other 40 plus towns supposed to get answers?
Yes. I mean, that's just on a very, very basic level. He also mentioned that this so-called initiative from the national government doesn't actually have the legislative power to get witnesses or to actually have any power to do any direct action after the result of the inquiry comes. So there's no point in having this inquiry anyway, or these 5 inquiries. It doesn't actually even focus on the real issues. But one thing is the fact that because certain people who were already cancelled, including Tommy Robinson, Sammy Woodhouse and others, they started this years ago. Not many people talked about this. Obviously, we talked about it and the others. But then new media outlets started talking about it. Because new media talked about it and other new channels, some mainstream media channels started talking about it. So that's like Talk TV, GB News, whatever. Then that pushed more MPs to talk about it slowly. And now Sky News has to talk about it relatively. You see, this is the influence of people power from the bottom up. That's the power that people have. A lot of the same people who are relatively pessimistic about the fact that, well, we have no say, for example. But that's not really true. You do have a collective power. Yes, you essentially get ignored all the time by the political establishment, but you still can influence. If you keep pushing and pushing, you're using the right avenue. So obviously, as I said, from the bottom up, you got the activists, then you get that to new media. New media will get it to some of the more outspoken mainstream media, and then you get the politicians, and then they have no choice but to talk about it. Now, the next challenge is to actually get them to do something. That's a harder one. Nobody has a response for that yet. But again, you cannot lose hope. Let's go and get some reaction. We've got Ivan in the super chat. Thank you. Saying Sadiq Khan is up to his eyeballs in the sleaze and corruption, in my opinion. There's so many stories about corruption in London and the Greater London Authority that is under the supervision of Sadiq Khan, and they're not being addressed. Ivan is right. She's talking from her rear end. Oh, that's Yvette Cooper. I thought you meant Susan Hall. I was like, what did Susan do? Jason says that why are Muslims are not punished in accordance with the Sharia? Because you're gonna have to read the Islamic scripture to actually the Islamic text to find out why there are so many loopholes. For example, Richard says sound cutting off and on, mate. Seems to be okay for this side. I don't know what's going on. The other people have the same problem. Well, this one says the sound is too loud for me, so can't keep everybody happy. Someone else says sound is perfect. Okay, so it seems to be okay. I don't know what's going on. Mark says no sound. Click the mute button. Unmute it. Anyway, so where are we with this? Let's go to some non-super chats while we're here as well. I would not have expected anything else from this despicable man. I hope you're talking about Sadiq Khan, not Maya Tusi. We have another one saying he was trying to get her to say Pakistan rape gangs to make her look racist. Yeah, that's exactly what Sadiq Khan was trying to do. We know their tactics. It's so obvious now. Linda says, how can we get our country back using the ballot box when our country is riddled with corruption even at the ballot box? So, I mean, there are going to be new changes that will make it harder, but you can make a change at the ballot box if you get everybody to come out. One of the reasons that we have this Labour government, one of the reasons we have this Sadiq Khan as London mayor is because the majorities decided to stay at home. If you stay at home, when the turnout is low, obviously the other side are going to be more proactive. You can't really blame anybody else, because those who just decided to abstain or vote for a random small party, well, that's what happens. So you're going to get what is going on here? But you're going to get the political left being more proactive. That's just normal. I was talking about 2CTV Plus. Matthew says, we need the app. Yes, the app is coming. I've been saying this for years and years. There we go. Actually, we were just waiting for Apple, the App Store, to approve that. I think that's going well now. Android is fine. Google Play Store, whatever it's called. I don't believe in Android. But so that should be coming as well soon, Matthew. I know I've been saying that for years and years. The Saxon says, I voted for Susan Hall for London Mayor. Just a pity she didn't make it, thanks to the thousands who didn't bother to vote. Exactly. The Saxon is absolutely spot on. That's what happens. You had one chance to stop Sadiq Khan and you decided, nah, don't want to. I don't like Susan's face. Please call it rape gang, not grooming gang. This is exactly what the establishment wants. So the establishment have been trying to basically get you to just say rape instead of grooming, because they know the problem. The problem is the concept of grooming, because it goes beyond just rape. Because if you then just say, oh, it's just rape, then they say, yeah, we're just going to put it in the same category as all the other incidents that happens on a regular basis. They don't want you to talk about the systemic grooming. There's a reason we say grooming, even though they hate it. It's because it goes beyond just rape. This is a systemic problem. And if you find out the disgusting things that they do, literally grooming kids, and it's not always penetration, because rape is always penetration. It's not always penetration. There's some weird things that happen. These people are weird people. And there's also obviously torture. There's also obviously brainwashing some of the kids and taking them to certain communities. It's bad. It goes beyond just rape, because they are psychological. It's a psychological warfare, and they want you to say rape, because then that way you just be like, yeah, we're just putting it in that category. Everything's fine. It's a disgusting ritual that is not just always about penetration, and it's still as bad, sometimes worse. Now, I follow several American YouTubers, and they are all talking about this national scandal. I'm glad it's got traction. Yes, I have noticed, actually. Although it's fair, I do find it interesting. Some of the new media outlets, I'm